Oh my God, I feel like I'm sitting in a hole because I switched chairs and this chair's a tiny bit shorter. Like, it's amazing how if a chair is like 1 inch lower, it feels like you're sitting in a hole. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we engineers are sometimes sensitive people.
You think?
Barry, are you a sensitive guy?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Podcast Engineering Show. This is session number 25. Seems like some sort of milestone. Oh! Yeah! Yeah! That's right. We're back. You're here. I'm here. Liza Miller's here. What's up, Liza?
Yeah. How you doing?
Good. I'm gonna formally introduce you in a moment. But for now, I'd like to welcome you to the show. My name's Chris Curran. I'm the founder of Fractal Recording, which is my production company, and I'm also starting the Podcast Engineering School. I'm going to offer courses and workshops online, actually. So wherever you are, you can join in and learn about EQ and compression and mastering and all these a little more advanced audio topics for podcasting. Each week on this show, we bring you podcast production techniques on a silver platter. We really talk shop, and it's funny, we talk shop because Liza is in a shop, right, Liza?
I sure am.
It's pretty cool. I didn't think about that until right now. Well, anyway, I have a background in audio engineering in the music business, and when I entered podcasting, I realized that most podcasters don't know that much about audio and, audio engineering and some of the fundamentals and some of the details. So that's what this show's for. So I'm here to help you. If you have questions about your audio quality or your sound setup or anything, you can email me. You can listen to the show. A lot of our listeners end up on the show, like Liza. She started out as a listener and sent us an email and said, "Oh my God, you got to hear what we're doing." Yeah, and I'll just give you a hint. 16 people in a room.
Yeah.
Hosting on a podcast. Okay, that's enough. That's enough of a tease. If you implement the best of what you learn here, it'll make a big impact on your podcast. It really will. And of course, Barry is with me. Barry, what are we going to need today to have a good episode today? What do we need? The normal stuff or anything different? Oh, Barry, see, you don't put... Oh my God! Oh, all right. Starting again. Thank you. See, sometimes we edit, sometimes we don't. Barry, what are we going to need today for today's episode to make it a good one?
You're going to need a couple of horses or a couple of mules.
Okay. Well, you're in a motorcycle shop, Liza, so I don't know. No horses over there, I'm assuming.
Just horsepower.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that. Classic. So Liza Miller's with me. She's the host of the Motorcycles and Misfits podcast.
Yes.
And the website, by the way, is motorcyclesandmisfits.com. You guys are up to, well, your latest episode is episode 156, and you have so many people in the room on the show at the same time.
Yes, we do. Yep.
And you've been through a lot of learning experiences to get where you are now, right?
Right. Well, the first podcast was 3 of us sitting around one USB mic talking into it. And it's just gone up from there. 3.
Yeah, because when I heard, I was listening to the latest episode of your show, and it's funny because it's like the intro guy. He claims he's not the host. He's just the intro guy. He's like, oh, and we have Joe here over on the couch. Joe's like, hey, and he goes through like 12 people, and everyone is on a mic. But is it really in your motorcycle shop?
Yeah. Do you need me to open some drawers here? Screwdrivers? Yeah.
You need to rev an engine?
Yeah, I got
I saw
pictures.
Everything. I saw pictures on the site.
Oh, yeah.
So you started listening to this show, which is cool because would you say you're the one in charge of your show? Or are you sort of like the main organizer of your podcast?
Yeah.
Okay.
You could say that, yes.
And do you host every episode?
No, and that's why Doug was saying he, not the host tonight, just introducing, because he was the host the last week. I encourage other people in my group to try and produce, to try and host. We have multiple people who can edit, who can book guests. It's kind of a shared community thing, but I am the driving force behind it.
Okay, cool. And we're going to get into the audio aspect of this because, look, when I was at Podcast Movement and I did my Q&A session about a month ago or maybe more, one question I got was, if I have 3 people in a room, how do I cut down on the crosstalk, the bleed from other voices into the other mics? And I gave him some answers, including one is to stay close to the, if everyone stays really close to their mic, that helps a lot. But then when you emailed me and were like, oh, we have between 10 and 16 people on every episode, I was like, we got to hear about this, how you're keeping it clean. Because it sounds, look, there might be some background noise, but it's very little background noise. I wasn't distracted. I didn't even hear it. I didn't listen for it, but I didn't really hear it. So we're going to find out what you're doing to make sure you don't get all that background noise, whether it's just, nose to the grindstone, editing, like literally deleting all the silence parts. We're going to find out. But in terms of recording your show, do you record at the same time every week? Like, because corralling 16 people has got to be a task.
Yeah, exactly. I have to set kind of rigid times of we start setting up at 6. We record at 7. We are done at 8:30, and we have to be out by 9, so that everyone gets used to the schedule. And something that may sound horrifying to other podcasters is we have to break down completely every night and then set it back up the next time. I'm talking every cable, every mic, everything gets put away because we're in here welding and grinding and so all the equipment needs to be packed up and put away. And
Is it the same day and time every week?
Yeah, every Sunday night we record. And there are people whose job in the group it is just to set up every Sunday night so that we can keep to that schedule.
Okay. And what is the podcast supporting? Usually a podcast supports a business. Is it that, or is it just a bunch of you guys are all into motorcycles and stuff and you just wanted to do a show?
No, see, that's the thing that's great. Our podcast is about our passion. That's it.
Nice.
It's about the motorcycle culture. It's about our community. It's about us exploring and learning. Right now, where we're located in Northern California, there's a lot of new electric companies. You've heard of Tesla, but this is happening in the motorcycle world too. So we're exploring and visiting these different electric motorcycle companies and sharing with the world the future that's coming because we're in the middle of it. And that's what we're doing later today. We're going up to another electric motorcycle manufacturer to check out their factory.
That's so funny. You always think of electric cars. I never thought of an electric motorcycle. But here's the problem. Don't a lot of you motorcycle guys, because my brother's one of them. I'm not. I like motorcycles, but I've actually never driven one after my moped when I was 15 years old. Anyway, but if it's an electric motorcycle and it's silent, how are you going to get the big noise? Are you going to have to mount speakers on the side and have fake motorcycle noise?
Well, that's the big myth right now is if you can't be heard, is it going to cause accidents? Well, all the newer bikes have quiet mufflers, so it's really not that big of a difference.
Oh, I see. Yeah, but no, doesn't the regular motorcycle Harley dude want to be cool and rev his engine, or that's not a big deal?
But that's the difference. We're not posers. We're real bikers.
Oh, cool.
We ride to ride, not to feel cool.
Yeah, not to show off and pull up next to someone and flex your triceps. Yeah. Yeah,
it's not about image. We ride everything, scooters, sport bikes, cruisers. We ride everything for the pure joy of riding. And that's what we share in our podcast is our joy of motorcycling and the culture and everything that has anything to do with it. That's pretty much it.
And it's so cool how your passion for motorcycles is like that. You're the real deal. You just do it because you love it, not to show off. Same thing with your podcast. You're doing it because you love it, and you're not necessarily going out and buying a $100,000 mixing board and all these equipment. You're using what you got and putting out something that's good, and people like it, right?
Yeah, well, the truth is I have a past where I was a live sound engineer, so I do have some training, and I do have a level of quality that I want to meet. And when we started out recording around a little USB mic, it's horrible. Just sounds horrible. And listening to other podcasts in our same vein, you have so many people who are recording from 2 different cities via Skype. It doesn't sound great. And everyone thinks that the podcast is all about the content. But if you can't get the quality, then the content doesn't have the same sting. You know what I mean?
Right.
I want to be taken seriously. I want people to hear me and not be bothered by different levels or a muffled quality, you know?
Yeah. That's so true. So true. So let's get into the speed rounds. Oh, by the way, your background as a live sound engineer, tell us about that briefly, because here's the thing. If you're listening to this, and you're a podcast engineer or a producer, it's so funny how all different experiences from our past can contribute to our podcast engineering and everything. So, obviously live sound is very close to podcasting because you're using mics, you're plugging them into a mixer. Although obviously in podcasting, you're not, blasting it through speakers, but there's a lot of different audio experience genres that help. So what were you doing? Like live sound for bands at clubs?
Yeah, exactly. And mostly like the acoustic music scene. So it's very much about the purity of the sound. You're not trying to pump guitars over drums so much. It's just about the pure quality of the voice rising above all the acoustic instruments.
Right.
So it was really good training for what I do now.
And with live sound, did you ever use any? I mean, obviously there's EQ on every mixing board, but did you ever use compressors or anything, or a limiter to sort of squash any of the signals?
Yes. And actually, when we first started recording, I had there's a lot of computer geeks here in California.
Nice.
And the people who were helping us set up, it was all about USB and, computers. And I hated the sound. And I finally said, you know what? I got to do analog.
Yeah.
And I basically have set up what we had in that venues. I've got set up here in my garage now.
Nice.
And that I just trust the analog. It just sounds so much better.
Right. So can you just, before we get into the speed round, I'm curious about how you viewed compressors in live sound, because as we know, a compressor, squashes down the signal above the threshold, above a certain point. But we also know when you turn up the makeup gain, it brings up the noise floor. And of course, when you're doing live sound with a bunch of mics open, that's how you can just really generate a feedback loop pretty easily. So how do you use a compressor, but be careful not to create feedback loops a lot easier?
Well, it's easy. The compressor came out of necessity, because when you have a room full of people laughing out loud, it can really peak your signal. So we needed it to help compress those moments, because you can have one person talking quietly or you can have 12 people laughing out loud. We needed to be able to control that signal better.
I see. Did you ever compress guitars or vocals?
Not so much.
Okay.
Yeah, the compressor's there just more like as a safety,
On this whole stereo bus kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That's perfect. Yeah, that's cool. So, all right, let's get into the speed round. Barry, you ready?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Josh loves it. So many fans of the show love Barry. I'm going to break out some new clips very soon. I don't know have you ever heard this one?
That's a tongue twister right there.
There you go. That's
a new one.
That's a tongue twister right there. But see, you can only use that clip when someone says, like when someone stumbles on a word, like this big long word. Then you play that. It's funny. But besides that, it's tough to find a way to use it.
Nice. Kick them when they're down, Chris.
Hey, All right, so number one of the speed round, well, it's tell us what shows you produce and engineer, and Motorcycles and Misfits is your show, right? That's the only one you produce, right?
This is the only one, though. Something I would like to discuss is the possibility of opening up my studio to other podcasters to come in and use it. I'm wondering if other people are doing that.
Well, it's funny. I did that for 3 years in New Jersey. starting about 4.5 years ago. I opened a studio in northern New Jersey, and I had a nice round table, which I still have here. Actually, everything from my studio is now in my basement. It's a nice finished basement, walkout basement. And I did that. I wanted to be like a local podcast studio and get local business people to come in and host shows, and I would sit there and engineer it. And that's what I did. It kind of worked pretty well, actually, but at one point I needed to like go out and make sales, like, because obviously if it was my full-time thing, right? So I needed a certain number of clients to pay the bills, and so I could earn a living. And to get that number of clients, I would have had to go out and network and sell people and bring them in and do like sample sessions and all this stuff. And I didn't really have time or the inclination really to get out there and, network and sell and all that. So I brought on one of my so-called friends, and he completely screwed me over out of a lot of money, actually.
Oh.
And that's when I decided, you know what? F this. I'm going virtual. So in your case, if you don't have to make it your like primary and only business, and you don't have to, it's not necessary to earn a lot of money to pay the bills and pay your mortgage, then if it's sort of like a side gig thing, it definitely could work. You just have to figure out the finances and the timing and everything. Definitely.
I think of it more as helping the community, because I remember when we were starting out, how kind of lost you feel and how much time you spend on the internet trying to figure out how to navigate this whole thing. But there's so many people with ideas and voices, and all they need is that conduit, that little help to get their voice heard. And I figured, why not just offer up what I've already learned to help those people get their message out? But isn't that's what's great about podcasting? That's what this whole thing is about. Anyone can be heard.
Yeah, the only thing they'll need, most people, is someone to actually engineer it and sit there and set the levels and actually record it, and then afterwards, mix it down and make sure it sounds good. Which I guess might be you. In which case, that's your time. Your time is valuable. If you're going to spend, 3 hours total on one episode, what's that time worth for you?
3 hours? I don't know what you're talking about.
What do you spend, like 12 hours?
No. We record, we finish recording, wrap up by 9, and I have the podcast posted by 10:30 at night usually.
Okay.
I edit and post. It's quick. Once you've got it down, you know how to bang it out.
Right. That's true. I guess I take more time. I don't know. Since I come from the music world and I come from mixing songs, I actually think of every podcast episode as like a song, and that I record all the tracks separately, and then I sit there and I go back. I go into my software and I process every track. I remove noise. I clip silence parts. I really clean. I don't know. I spend a lot of time, and I guess that's just because what I like to do, really. That's why. So, but yeah, that's great what you do. I mean, if you can streamline it that much, that sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, I do like you do. I'm making mental notes and jotting down notes if there's something I know I need to edit, or if I have a guest who takes a long time to answer a question, I'll shorten that up to make it seem, like a quicker response. But you're writing these down as you go, so you can go right to those edit points and take it out.
Makes sense. All right, speed round, second question. Walk us through your workflow and your hardware. So you kind of already mentioned some of it, but just walk us through from the setup all the way to the posting, but maybe mention some equipment, and we'll go through it quick right now, just kind of breeze through it now, and then we'll actually spend some time and go through it.
Certainly. So again, working with a budget and having so many people here, trying to save money where I can. I've got different levels of mics. I've got some cheap mics that I use for people who don't talk as much. You buy these Behringer XM1800s on, Amazon for a 3-pack for $40.
Whoa.
And yeah. So that's just so you can have all these extra mics. And then my better mics are the Behringer XM8500As, which are $30 each, spending big money there.
Wow.
And then you listening to your podcast guilted me into getting one good mic for me. So I'm talking on the Audio Technica AT2020.
2020. Wow.
Yeah. That's $85 on Amazon. So that's really big bucks for me.
Is that a condenser?
Yeah.
Oh, it is a condenser. I wonder how that works in the big room with everybody talking there.
We're still getting it hammered out, but I think it works better. I wanted just to have my voice kind of a little bit clearer, but I'm also trying it out.
Nice. Oh,
but
that's awesome.
Before that, the 8500s sound really good. Did you want to hear what they sound like now?
Oh, actually, no.
Okay.
But I will tell you, if you're listening to this, Liza has 3 mics there set up, and we're going to hear all 3. We're going to do that a bit later after we get into going through this more detailed. All right, so you have all these different mics, and you show up on a Sunday at 6 o'clock, and it takes you about an hour to set up.
Mm-hmm. So the mics are going through something. We keep adding as we go. Shock mount mic holders turned out to be invaluable, first of all. So I replaced all of our regular mic holders with some shock mount holders. And then those are all feeding into a Mackie board that I got used. And there's a lesson I learned with that one too. But I've got a Mackie 1642 VLZ Pro. And then we're going out of the Mackie and into the compressor, which is the Alesis 3630 compressor. Got that used also.
Really?
And
I remember that one. I use that in the studios.
And all of these are plugged into a power conditioner as well. And then that goes out of the compressor into the Audio Buddy preamp. Not the Audio Buddy. That's going into the going right into the computer using the what's it called? See, I wrote all these down. You had me so nervous about answering all your questions.
Yeah, right.
Let's see. The Behringer U-control audio interface, $30. And I also then, coming out of the board, I have the for some of the mics, we have the Audio Buddy preamps, but then I also have headphones for everybody, because that's another trick to get the best sound you can is people need to be able to hear themselves. So I have a bunch of the headphone splitters for that, the Behringer HA-400s, so we can run up to 16 headphones.
That's cool.
But yeah, I found that to be important. As you're learning, how do you get people to sound better? They need to be able to hear themselves. They're going to be kicking the mic stand, so we got to have the mic holders to eliminate noise.
Right.
It's just continuously like, what is that sound? How do we get rid of that?
Right. Totally. And so it goes through your audio interface is a Behringer U-control, and then it goes into a computer. And what software do you use to record?
For the software, I am using the Adobe Audition.
Right,
yeah, Adobe Audition, and then we're editing on Soundbooth.
Soundbooth.
Mm-hmm.
Soundbooth, is that a native Apple program?
It's Adobe.
Oh, it's Adobe?
Yeah.
And what is it just for, like stereo editing? Just simple?
Yeah, because we have different channels there, so I am putting the music in there, and sometimes I'll be adding other clips or something. So I just find that that's the easiest to work with for the multiple channels.
Yeah, speaking of Soundbooth, it reminds me of that awesome Tenacious D video, which you can see on YouTube. It's called Tribute. It's just so funny. Jack Black and Kyle KG. It's so funny. Soundbooth. Anyway, because in the video they go into this Soundbooth to record their song. I don't know. It's just that's one of the greatest videos ever. You've seen that, right, Liza?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's one more thing we have, which is very important. That is our backup recorder.
Oh.
Because once you've lost some recordings and you've had guests come in and you have a room full of people, that really sucks.
Yeah. Can all 16 of you come back next week? We're going to do this again. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So wait, your backup recorder. So what do you take a feed right out of the board?
Yep, take a feed out of the board, and we're recording onto a Tascam little handheld, an AK DR-11G. And we also use that for remote recording when we're doing interviews out in the field.
Nice. I'm taking notes here. Yeah, the backup and as a remote one, right? Mm-hmm. So this is cool. I like this. So the mics you're using, you have some really inexpensive mics, and I've never even heard of these mics, some of these Behringers. Are they all like the Behringer XM1800 you mentioned that there's, $40 for 3 of them?
Yeah.
Is that like a regular handheld mic? Does it sit on a stand?
Yeah, they're all kind of Shure copies.
Okay, like a regular handheld cardioid mic kind of thing.
Yep, exactly.
Wow, but really cheap. Do they have like an on-off switch on them probably?
Yes, the 1800 does.
Right, yeah. I don't know why a lot of the cheaper mics have little on-off switches, which is handy. It can be handy. I don't know if they're prone to breaking, but yeah, well, you know what it's prone to is, well, in my world, sometimes like someone's guest will connect over the internet, and they'll be able to hear us, but we can't hear them. And it's like, oh, could you make sure the switch on the mic is on? And then you hear click, hello.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we just spent 5 minutes troubleshooting why we can't hear you. And, the stupid switch was off. Anyway, so when you set up your 16 or, 10, 12, 16 people around, do you kind of sit in a circle to kind of point the mics away from each other? How does that setup happen?
We're more set up in a weird, like in a G, because we're working around the garage and the things in the garage. And there's a big column in the middle where we have our cabinet that houses the sound equipment. So some of the people can't even see each other in the room when we're recording. But for the most part, no, just people just side by side, shoulder to shoulder in a configuration around the room. Yeah.
There you go. Next version, everyone will have like a nice headset. Wireless.
Oh, yeah. No, I used to, because I was too cheap to buy extra mic stands, so I had those splitters on the end of the mic stand, so you'd have 2 mics coming off of one.
Totally.
Again, it's a lot of money to have this much equipment, so I just kind of slowly built it up. But, you learn your lessons as you go, and as somebody who strives to have better sound, just something gnaws it, and you're like, I got to get that. I got to make that better.
Yeah, totally. So speaking of that, you got the shock mount holders. I like these. I have these too. So if you're listening and you're not sure what that means, like when you have a microphone stand, let's say it's like a little, just a regular stand-up boom stand, like, the singer of a band would sing on. There's a mic clip, which the mic clips into to keep it held on the mic stand. And normal mic clips are, well, they're just normal. They just clip the mic and that's it. But these shock mount clips, they actually, it's a similar type of clip, but what it does is it separates the plastic a little, or it's like plastic rubber. I don't know what it is, but it basically prevents any shocks from the base of the mic stand. It prevents it traveling up the mic and actually rattling the mic and making this nasty sound on your recording. So it's like a shock mount that is clipped on, is screwed onto a mic stand, and then you slide your mic in it. Very handy, because people don't realize when you touch a stand or kick a stand, like you said before, they don't realize that on the recording, that is like the loudest and most annoying sound ever.
Yeah, and they're $11 each.
There you go.
Yeah, they're pretty cheap. So that was a really good investment too.
Totally. And you use a Mackie 1642 VLZ Pro. I have a Mackie 1642 VLZ 4.
Okay.
And I don't know the difference. I think the 4 is definitely newer, because I think the Series 4 mic pre's are supposed to be a little better, whatever little upgrades and changes they make in boards as time goes on.
Right.
But where did you got yours used, right?
Yeah, got mine off of eBay. And so here's a little lesson that I learned on this one. Whenever you're buying sound equipment used, You're never sure what you're going to get. And this came in a travel case, and it was really clean. It looked like it'd been owned by a church or something, you know? Mm. And I got it, and I've used Mackie before, and I love Mackie. I had such high expectations. It sounded good, except there was this buzzing sound in the background. Could never figure out where it was coming from. Mm. I was replacing equipment. That's why we had the power conditioner. I ended up having to rewire my garage because I had a bad ground. It still didn't get rid of this buzz. And I did some research on the internet, which said that these Mackies were known for having bad ribbon cables.
Oh.
Yeah. So rather than scrap the whole thing, I had to order new ribbon cables from a company online and take the board completely apart and replace all the cables, which fixed the problem. So, but that's a big deal because at first I didn't want to tear into this Mackie board. Like, right. Who wants to open this whole thing up?
Yeah.
Just taking all the little knobs off is a pain in the ass.
Yeah, that's a whole nother level. Like, that's not even audio engineering. That's like technician. Like, that's like serious deep stuff. Yeah.
Right, and I couldn't find anyone locally who would work on an older model. Oh. They said, no, for what we would charge you to do it, it's not worth it. Just get a new board.
Oh.
So we rebuild engines and carburetors here, and I have the tools. And I said, you know what, I can do this. So I took it apart, put the new cables in, and now it works. But it's just a lesson learned that when you're getting something on eBay that says that it works perfect, it may not. And you have to keep doing the research and find out more about the equipment you're using when you're trying to do something like track down a buzzing sound.
Right. Yeah, definitely buying. That's the double-edged part of buying used equipment. It's definitely a lot cheaper. It could even be easier to get or quicker to get. But you might come up against something like that. Well, that's awesome that you were able to crack that thing open and change some ribbon cables in there.
Yeah, so that worked out.
Right? All right, so then you come out of the board, and your board has 16 channels, right? Because it's a 16 series, whatever.
Yeah, and so the thing I like about this board is that it has the 12 XLR inputs.
Okay.
So we're normally just running 12 mics, and anyone beyond the 12th person we call peanut gallery, and they get to sit in the back row and just kind of shout. Though on occasion we can add more by pulling out some of my older soundboards, which are the smaller Behringer soundboards. I have a 1202 8-channel and an 802 4-channel, and we will actually link those in to add more channels.
Nice. Little sidecar, that's what they call that.
Yeah, I once did a recording with 22 people. It was a Christmas special.
I'm serious. If you're listening to this, you got to go to the website, motorcyclesandmisfits.com, and just look for pictures. There's pictures on there, right?
Yes, there are.
You got to see this. All right, so you come out of the board. That's interesting that you sometimes use a sidecar if you need to, and that you have, a peanut gallery. I love that. That people just yell. And so then it comes out of the board and goes through your Alesis 3630, which is a compressor, right?
Yes. Yeah, compressor gate.
Do you use the gate part of it?
A little bit. It helps because we're recording in a garage. There's, we go for that ambient sound. That's what you call it when you don't want to soundproof. But it helps. Everything is set really low on both the compressor and the gate, but it just helps for those moments because when nobody says anything, then there's always background noise. And when I'm doing the editing, it would raise the floor of this hissing sound.
Right.
So by putting that gate on, it helped take that out.
So you're going pretty light on the compression then. So keep in mind that everyone listening, this is the whole stereo mix. This is 12 microphones going through the stereo, getting mixed into the stereo bus and going through this 2-channel compressor. So you're going kind of light on it. And what kind of ratio?
Oh my gosh, you're going to make me look at the thing?
Yes. Come on. You're on the podcast engineering show. Right, Barry?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Let's see.
We love checking equipment on the show.
What do I got?
Todd Cochran did it. Todd's like, you know what? I haven't looked at that in years. Hold on a second.
Okay,
and he went and looked at it.
I'm going to read you numbers. We'll see if it makes any sense. Threshold is at just above 0.
Threshold just above 0. Good.
No, sorry. No. It's actually -10.
Okay.
Threshold's at -10.
Threshold -10.
The ratio is 6-1.
6-1. Okay.
And
that's good. Attack and release are
at, what's that? 5 ms. I don't even know what that means. 5
milliseconds.
MS, and the release is at 2 seconds.
2 seconds or 2 milliseconds?
It says 2s, so I'm going to go with 2 seconds.
2 seconds. Yeah. That's a more. Yeah, that's a long release time, but that really makes sense in your application because that's what radio has. I don't know if when you listen to radio, you can hear like when it goes from a loud part to a soft part of a song, it'll actually, like when the loud part stops and the low and the lower volume part of the song begins, it's really low, and then slowly over like 3 seconds it'll rise up. That's actually the compressor and limiter the compressor releasing the compression. So 2 seconds makes sense. 5 milliseconds is pretty good too. That's really quick.
Yeah, so that it's less noticeable.
Exactly.
The threshold is at
-10. You said, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
The threshold is a -10. So we really just, like I said, use it as a safety. You don't want to be able to hear it. You know, if it's doing its job, you don't notice it.
Exactly. Love that. All right. Then you go through the Behringer U-control interface. Now, What is that? Is that just like 2 XLR input interface?
Let's see. We're going a quarter out of the main mix on the board into some RCAs.
Oh, wait, but you're coming from the board. You're going to the Alesis 3630.
Sorry. Yeah, we put the 3630 in the middle of that. But that's just a quarter out to the RCA in.
Oh, RCA in to the audio interface. Okay.
To the audio interface.
And then
plug that into the computer, which I also recently bought a second computer.
Oh.
I know you love that.
Oh.
So that we can start doing some other sound effects or call in or whatever. Which, by the record, we don't do Skype and we rarely ever do phone call ins because the audio quality sucks so much. But I'm kind of digging this whole fractal thing here. Definitely want to be checking this out.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, look, you're balancing 12 mics already. I mean, putting up another one is not bad. Plus, on your mixer, you definitely have line inputs as well, like in addition to the 12 mics. So you can easily have another computer just come out of that right into a line input. Boom.
Exactly.
And use your EQ, because that's the thing. A lot of so because you're mixing everything together and recording it in stereo all in one shot, you kind of have to get the EQ and the levels right then, because you don't have a chance to go back and EQ one voice out of 12 later on. They're all mixed together. So when you get the Skype person coming in, if you ever do, you just make sure it sounds good compared to everything else, and boom, gets mixed right in.
So I'll share with you a little trick I did earlier on when I did have some people on the phone. Trying to figure out how to patch the phone into a soundboard was really complicated. How do you put your cell phone onto that?
Right.
Well, you can run the out from your cell phone into the board, and you can hear the people fine. But how do they hear you?
Right.
So you'll get a kick out of this. So I had the little 8th Mini go into the board so we could hear them really well. But then I had one of the sets of headphones coming off of the board. I had it sandwiched over the cell phone, and I put the cell phone in a drawer. So that they could hear us, and it worked amazing.
Wow.
And because I had those headphones over it, it kind of sealed so the sound didn't bleed.
Right.
It was pretty funny. So yeah, that was my technique before. I'd stick a cell phone in a drawer sandwiched with some headphones on it.
That is so cool. Truly a MacGyver moment right there. And yeah, another way to do that, I know they make these cables. It's not that aren't TRS, because TRS is tip ring sleeve. For cell phones, they make a TRRS, which it's so that little mini cable that you put into your cell phone, it's not just TRS, it's TRRS, and on the other end, there's a couple RCAs that are the output, and there's one RCA that's the input. So technically, if you did get that cable, the annoying thing is that not all cell phones use the same TRRS pattern. So the S is where the R is, and they switch. It's so weird. But anyway, if you get that cable, for instance, you'd be able to plug them straight into your board, and then you'd be able to take like an aux send out of your board, and that would go right into your phone. Yeah,
we have that now. But
okay.
It's just, those little tricks, those MacGyver tricks you come up with in the process.
I love that.
Are kind of amusing. I still don't like the way that phone conversation sounds, and there's no way to do it with a room of 12, 14 people trying to talk to one person on the phone. Yeah. So I rarely do that. I only do live interviews, which it's been amazing getting people down here to my little garage, and I'm getting like Hall of Famers in here and CEOs.
Wow.
It's amazing, but it's so important for it to sound good is how I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, doing phone calls live is difficult because when I record phone calls, someone on an actual phone line, of course, I record it on its own track. I always use noise reduction. I always go and noise map it and then run a noise reduction, and it really helps clean it up a lot. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, some people, I don't know why. Well, I know why. It's because people, when they're joining any show, there's a lot of people who have no concept of audio and sound, and they just will stray, they'll stray away from the microphone like that.
Yeah.
Their voice drops away. And even people on the phone, some people will literally, I don't know if you know these people, they trail off on some of their sentences. They'll be like, yeah, and it was really cool, and that was awesome. And it's like, you lose the last half sentence because they get really quiet, and it's like people on the phone, I feel like saying, dude, talk into your phone in a normal volume, please. Like, we're recording this. But, people don't know. People don't care. And of course, once you're already recording, you can't jump in the middle of an interview and say, hey, by the way, can we redo the first half of that? That's silly. All right, so you're going through the Behringer U-control into your computer, running Adobe Audition, which is cool. At some point, well, since you're using Audition, if you ever did want to get more crazy, you could get an audio interface with more inputs.
Right.
So maybe it has 4 XLR inputs, or maybe even 8 inputs, not XLR or quarter inch, mic or line. But if you got an interface that had 8 inputs, you could literally in Audition record 8 different tracks, and then you could figure out a way to route your 12 microphones to 8 tracks or even 4 tracks, whatever you want. So at that point you got to get a whole new audio interface, and then you got to figure out the routing of how you're gonna, because you'd have to still group mics together. You wouldn't have 12 or 16.
Can I remind inputs. You that I'm recording in a garage full of motorcycles?
Yeah, well, I like to dream, Liza. Come on.
It's very important to sound good, but it has to be a limit, Like there is such a thing as this is good enough.
Of course, yeah. All right, so you got then you open it in Soundbooth, and Soundbooth you said is a multi-track sort of a program where you can add your music and different things.
Yeah, and what we've done is we've got the intro and outro music pre-faded and loaded onto there. So I just open up that the Soundbooth, and it comes up with my clips there already. So then I can just slide them into place and align them where I need it.
Nice. Okay, and then the headphones. Let's talk about this headphone situation. I mean, if you're listening to this, you're like me. You're thinking, this is like figuring out how to get everyone a headphone mix and headphones, and maybe with some control over the volume. This is a production. So explain your headphone setup there.
Okay, so I've got 2 nice headphones, and the rest are crap.
Oh, come on. Inexpensive, Liza.
No, people they don't need to be able to hear the sound quality, just the sound levels.
Right.
So myself and the person who's running the board, we have nicer headphones so we can really hear the quality.
Right. Where are those 2 plugged in?
We are running out of actually, the guy who's running the sound is coming straight out of the headphones out on the board, and I am running through one of these stereo headphone amplifiers, the 4 channels, because that way I can adjust my volume independently. And there are times that someone's talking and I can hear something in the background, and I'll reach over and I'll turn it way up, and then I'll back it down,
Right.
It just gives me more control.
Sure.
So we just have these little 4-channel stereo headphone amplifiers. I'm holding in my hand one of the HA-400s. And these things, they're not that expensive. I think like maybe $30.
Right.
And it gives everyone control.
4 channels, so there's 4. You can plug in 4 headphones, and each headphone has its own little volume, right?
Yeah, and so the nice thing about the Mackie board is there's plenty of outputs on the board for different things, for auxiliary or stuff like that. So we're able to run. I think we're running the sub outs to these headphone amplifiers.
Okay, how many of the headphone amplifiers are you using?
We normally are using 3, but we have 4 here, so we can have 16 channels. Normally, I'm just running 12.
Oh, I see. So so you have 4 people, like you said, sitting shoulder to shoulder, basically, and they're all plugged into. Let's say those 4 people are all plugged into one headphone amp, and they each have their own volume.
Okay, so here's where I made it a little bit easier. I took our XLR cables and I taped to it an extension, a 1/8 extension that goes then to a 1/4 in. So every cable is basically a double cable. The XLR gets put into the board, and then the 1/4 goes into this headphone amplifier. So at the other end of the cable, where it plugs into the mic, right there is an outlet for the headphones to plug into. Does that make sense?
Wow. So if I'm a guest on your show or a participant in your show, and I'm speaking into a microphone, and obviously I'm wearing headphones too.
Yeah.
And the microphone I'm speaking into has a mic cable, obviously, that goes from the mic to the board. You're saying taped to that mic cable, you have the headphone cable coming the other way.
Yep.
Where I just plug in my headphones to that cable right there next to my mic.
Boom, I just dropped some knowledge on you.
Wow. and so, but that headphone cable originates from the headphone amp, this HA-400.
Which is right next to the board. So that way we just have kind of, a single cable running to each microphone stand, and that's going to have your mic and your headphone plug on it.
That is so cool. I'm actually thinking of, for the podcast engineering school, of when I do in-person events, I want each participant to be, obviously, bring their laptop and everything, because they're going to do exercises right on their laptops. But I'm going to need them to be wearing headphones, and because when I'm demoing, let's say I'm demoing how to use a compressor, and I'm, listening to a sound, and I'm, compressing it and talking about what I'm doing, I would need each participant to be wearing their headphones so they can hear, more accurately what I'm doing to the sound as I'm demoing it. So I'm picturing like a room of, let's say, 50 people, and each of those 50 people is going to need to plug in their headphones to something. So I'm starting to think of how the hell that's going to happen. So your little rig, how you're rigging it, is pretty cool. Although each person's not going to need a mic, but that's so cool.
So yeah, that just gives us control because some people want it. Some people are deaf; they need to hear better. Some people are very sensitive and they want it turned way down. So it gives individual control. There you go. Well, this has been awesome. Do you have any other little weird things come to mind, or any other advice for someone who might want to have a lot of people in one place, or anything else you've learned along the way type thing? Well, yeah, all the lessons that I've shared, it's just strive to do better. You can make it sound better. It doesn't matter if you have 2 people in a room or 10 people in a room. There's ways you can do it. And buy stuff used, do the research. I mean, there's a reason I'm listening to your podcast, Chris, is because I still want to do better and learn more. And now I'm hearing, you guys talk about like de-essers, and I'm like, ooh, what's that do? Yeah. It's fun. I thought you listened because of Barry, actually.
There's no activity, no giggle, no nothing.
Anyway, this has been great. Liza Miller. I just want to tell you real quick, we did have the pleasure this year of being recognized for our passion and what we do by participating on the AMC TV show Ride with Norman Reedus, where he actually came to the garage and recorded a podcast with us. And I felt like that was a real boost just for podcasting in general, because I'm sure when you tell people what you do, I do a podcast. Hey, what's that? Whoa, What time is it on? And I feel like we're all still helping to promote the whole podcasting thing. So that was really great for us to get picked to be on that and just to help promote podcasting in general. That's so cool. And it really makes me happy that you're, taking what you learned in your live sound past career and really using it to do something great. And you've stuck with it. You're on episode 156. You're still going strong. You're still learning. This is awesome. I mean, hopefully one day at, podcast movement, one of these years, you guys will get some sort of award or something, because seriously, who else is doing, 12 or 16 people in a room? Nobody. No one's as crazy. It's just crazy. So, and obviously, check out the show. If you're into motorcycles, definitely check out the show and all that. It's just a real nice vibe you guys have on the show as well. And there's something to be said for that, because, I don't know, a lot of, or some shows are just kind of stuffy, and like they work so hard on, we have to provide good content. It just becomes a little stale and everything. And it's like, you just got to have fun, man. Just go. Yeah, but, I also feel like this new wave of podcasting, too, one little USB mic does not cut it anymore. There was a time where you could do that. You could just, sit at a table and record. But everyone's upping their game, and these newer podcasts are coming in, and they're doing it even better. So I'm trying to do that, too. I'm trying to ride that wave and improve myself, and which is why something like your podcast is very valuable to everyone, and it's helping everyone to achieve better and more. Well, thank you. This has been tremendous. Hey, and right after this song is when Liza and I are going to compare those 3 microphones she has set up right there. So stay tuned. And Liza, you're going to have to help me at the very end of my outro, just so you know. Okay. So thanks for listening. Check out the Podcast Engineering School. It's podcastengineeringschool.com. All the episodes of this show are on that website. And again, fall of this year, which is like very soon, or even now. I don't know when this is going to come out, but check out the courses I offer. Thanks for listening. I hope this was helpful. Thank you to Liza Miller. And until next time, sound great! Yeah! Walk away from me where you can play that part so well, but you're playing out on me now. You like to lose control where it's quite a feeling easy here. They're floating, drifting down now. You tell me that you found something big.
Do you want to try and guess which one is a super cheap one?
Oh, boy. Yeah, hold on. Yes. All right, so let's hear these three mics.
Okay, so
yeah.
Right now I'm talking on the Audio-Technica AT220. And the thing that's nice about it is I can kind of hang back from the mic and it'll pick everything up. But I've got these other two mics. One is the Behringer XM1800S, which I told you is a 3-pack for $40. And then the other Behringer XM8500A, which is only $30, which actually I think sounds pretty good. And that's been our main mic. So we'll see if you can pick which one is the expensive $30 mic.
I love this. All right, so let me just, before we start, we got to take our time here. So right now you're on the AT2020.
That's correct.
Which is actually a condenser microphone. Mm-hmm. And these other mics you just mentioned, the Behringer 1800 and the Behringer 8500, those are dynamic cardioid mics.
Yes.
Okay. And the 2020 is also probably a cardioid pattern, I'm assuming. Mm-hmm. Okay. So right now you're on the AT2020 and everything that you just said to me is on that mic. All right, so go ahead and switch over to one of the other mics.
All right, so how's the level sound right now?
Actually, it's a little low. Can you just...
Yes, I can. How's the level right now?
A little more. Yeah, a little more.
How about there?
Oh, that's pretty good.
Okay. So this is one of the mics that we use regularly. And then this is another one of the mics that we use regularly.
Oh, you just switched again, right?
I just switched again.
All right.
So we've got this one. I'll give you a little A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Oh, so that's the first one again.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Okay, now go to the second one.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Yeah, so the second one, to me, right off the bat, has like a nice, more fuller low end, and it sounds smoother as well.
Okay, so I'm going to call this one mic 1, and I'm going to call this one mic 2. And they are EQ'd exactly the same on the board.
Okay. But what you're calling mic 2 was originally the first one you
That is correct.
spoke to. Yeah, okay. All right, so let's switch them then.
Mic 2, and this is mic 1. So how does that sound to you?
Yeah, just off the bat, mic 1 sounds better.
That's amazing because that is the cheap one.
That's the cheap one, right?
And now I'm back to mic 2. And this is the ones that we usually use. This is the $30 mic. And this is the $13 mic.
Yeah, so the $13 mic, which I just said sounded a little better. Mm-hmm. I think the level overall is a bit louder. So can you turn up the level on the $30 mic?
I brought up the level here. How's that sound?
All right.
See, normally I think we'd be up about here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
That's interesting.
Yeah, there's not a huge difference. I'm back to mic 1, and I find that these we need to EQ it a little bit more just to brighten it up because it tends to be muffled. But this mic, the $30 mic, usually does pretty good, especially for $30, and especially since, like I said, we're in a motorcycle garage. These things get, beat up.
Right.
And then I'm back to the AT2020.
Right? Yeah, that sounds clearer.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I wanted to sound better, but when you're working on a budget and, now I'm back onto the $30 mic, it does a pretty good job.
Right? Oh, totally. Yeah, that's totally good enough for 16 people in a room. There's no doubt there. So
Exactly.
That's good.
Yeah, so I just wanted to share that with you.
That's cool. Very good. So, yeah, 102.
That would be my advice. If you're going to run a lot of mics, get some cheap ones, because there are some people who will barely say a word.
Right? And then you have this whole expensive setup, and they're like, hello. They say one word, and, done.
Exactly. Hey, and I just wanted to thank you for what you're doing. Again, like I said, it's very valuable, and boy, you recognize the right time to do what you're doing, because there's so many people coming in who don't know what the heck they're doing. And it just drives me crazy, the quality of a lot of people's podcasts. I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus, but some of these people in my field who have been doing it as long or longer than I have and have not improved or changed any of their equipment.
Yeah.
And I just think that they're just going to get left in the dust as people get better and better and better at this.
Yeah. Well, it certainly makes an impression, the quality of the sound. Podcasting itself is sound.
Right. And that's why I get what you're not talking about the marketing and the editing. This is so important, the sound.
Yeah. That's like, it's like if it was a visual medium, let's say video. What if you were to show up on video looking horrendous?
Exactly.
And you're going to be like, well, I'm making videos. I have a YouTube channel. I'm making videos. Yeah, but you look horrendous. Comb your hair,
I can tell you that we have a YouTube channel, and our guy has been using a little camcorder, and he wanted to get something better. And I said, okay, but if you're getting something better, we need to have like 2 channel inputs. We need to have better mics. Let's start looking into lavaliers. And they ended up just going with a camera that had better video quality, but just the same little, mic. And I'm like, what are you doing? It's the sound is so important.
Yeah.
I don't care how many pixels you have if it doesn't sound good.
Yeah. Well, that's why my buddy Mike Helms in Florida, he quotes, who's the guy who made Star Wars?
George Lucas.
George Lucas. Yeah. His quote was, sound is half the picture.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
Please, it's just true.